Listen carefully. There is a version of your life that you are currently paying for every single day. The job you hate. The money you don't have. The opportunities you keep missing. The things you keep saying you'll do someday. And here's the uncomfortable part. Someday is getting more expensive. Because while you're waiting to feel ready, someone else is learning the skill you should have learned. Someone else is building the business you keep thinking about. Someone else is taking the opportunity you're still analyzing. And the clock doesn't care. You don't need another motivational video. You don't need another quote. You don't need another Monday. You need to make a decision. A real decision. The kind where you stop negotiating with the weaker version of yourself. Because getting financially successful doesn't begin when you make your first million. It begins when you finally decide, I'm no longer going to live accidentally. Look at your last 12 months. Not your plans. Not your intentions. Your actual results. How much did you earn? How much did you save? What did you build? What did you learn? What became better? Because your calendar tells the truth about you. Your bank account tells part of the truth. And your habits tell the rest. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not telling you that money is the meaning of life. It isn't. But money gives you something incredibly valuable. Options. The ability to leave. The ability to say no. The ability to help someone you love. The ability to survive an emergency without your entire world collapsing. The ability to choose instead of simply accept. That's why financial strength matters. Imagine your car breaks tomorrow. Your family needs help. Your income suddenly disappears. An opportunity appears, but it requires capital. What happens? If the answer is panic, that's information. Not an insult. Information. It tells you exactly where you need to become stronger. And that's what your financial life should be. A weakness you systematically turn into strength. The mistake is thinking, I need more money. No. First, you need to become more valuable. Because money is usually attracted to value. If you can solve a problem worth $10,000, you can potentially earn more than someone solving a problem worth $100. So stop asking, where can I find money? Start asking, what expensive problem can I learn to solve? That question can change your life, because the market doesn't care how badly you want success. It cares what you can do. You can desperately want $10,000 a month, but desire alone has no market value. Learn to sell. Learn to write. Learn technology. Learn marketing. Learn negotiation. Learn how businesses make money. Become useful. Then become exceptional. And here's where people make another mistake. They think they need the perfect idea. They don't. Your first business might fail. Your second might fail. Your third might be embarrassing. Good. You are collecting information. Every failed attempt removes one wrong direction. Every experiment teaches you something. The goal isn't to avoid failure. The goal is to become dangerous at learning. Think about how many people spend years doing the same thing. Same job. Same routine. Same spending. Same excuses. Same friends. Same environment. Then they expect a completely different financial life. That's not how reality works. You can't repeat the same inputs forever and demand different outputs. If you want a different life, you have to become a different person. And becoming different doesn't mean pretending to be rich. It means becoming harder to break. Instead of buying something to look successful, buy time. Instead of impressing strangers, build skills. Instead of upgrading your lifestyle every time your income rises, upgrade your financial position. Don't spend money trying to look wealthy. Use money to become wealthy. There is a massive difference, because looking rich and being financially strong are completely different games. One asks, how do people see me? The other asks, how much freedom do I actually own? One buys applause. The other buys options. One needs people to notice. The other doesn't need anyone to know. And if you understand that early, you've already escaped one of the biggest traps in modern life. Your phone is constantly showing you the finished product. Someone's house. Someone's car. Someone's vacation. Someone's business. Someone's bank balance. But you're comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reel. Stop. Their life isn't your assignment. Your assignment is simple. Become better than the person you were yesterday. That's the only comparison that matters. And if you're serious about getting rich, you need to understand something uncomfortable. Your attention is an asset. Every hour you give away is gone forever. You can replace money. You can rebuild a business. You can find another opportunity. But you cannot buy yesterday back. So protect your attention like money. Because in many ways, it is more valuable than money. Imagine taking the next year seriously. Not perfectly. Seriously. 2 focused hours every day. 1 valuable skill. 1 business experiment. 1 financial improvement. 1 year. That's roughly 700 hours of focused effort. Do you really think the person you become after that will be the same person you are today? Of course not. So stop asking whether you are motivated. Motivation is unreliable. Some mornings you'll feel unstoppable. Other mornings you'll feel exhausted. It doesn't matter. Build systems that work even when your emotions don't. Because successful people aren't always more motivated. They simply don't allow their mood to vote on every important decision. And this is where everything changes. You stop saying, "I'll work when I feel like it." You start saying, "This is what I do." You don't negotiate with brushing your teeth. You don't negotiate with showing up. You don't negotiate with learning. You don't negotiate with building. It becomes part of who you are. And identity is powerful because once you identify as a builder, you start seeing opportunities everywhere. A problem becomes a business idea. A skill gap becomes something to learn. A rejection becomes feedback. A bad month becomes data. A mistake becomes tuition. Your environment hasn't necessarily changed. Your interpretation has. And that's where real financial growth begins. You don't need to know exactly how you'll become wealthy. You need to become the kind of person capable of finding out. That means experimenting, learning, selling, creating, failing, adapting, repeating. Most people want certainty before action. Builders understand something different. Action creates certainty. You learn by moving. So if your current plan isn't working, change the plan, not the goal. That's an important distinction. You can change the vehicle without abandoning the destination. Maybe your first business isn't right. Try another. Maybe your job isn't enough. Learn something valuable on the side. Maybe your investment strategy is weak. Study. Adjust. Keep moving. Because the people who eventually win financially aren't always the smartest. They're often the ones who stay in the game long enough to become good. They survive the embarrassing beginning. They survive the failed attempt. They survive being ignored. They survive being told no. And eventually, their persistence becomes an advantage. So here's your challenge. For the next 12 months, stop trying to impress people. Try to impress yourself. Become someone your future self respects. Earn more. Keep more. Learn more. Build more. Waste less. And every month, ask yourself one brutal question. Am I actually becoming more valuable? If the answer is yes, keep going. Here's the trap nobody warns you about. You can increase your income and still become financially weaker. You can get a raise and somehow have less money. You can start making more and immediately start spending more. Bigger apartment, better car, more subscriptions, more dinners, more expensive weekends. And suddenly your new income is already gone. That's lifestyle inflation. And it is one of the quietest ways to destroy wealth. Because nobody feels poor while it's happening. You feel successful. You think, I can afford this now. And maybe you can. But the real question isn't, can I afford it? It's, will buying this make me stronger or weaker? That question changes everything. And here's another uncomfortable truth. You don't need a higher income to start becoming financially disciplined. You need discipline before the higher income arrives. Because if you can't control $1,000, $10,000 won't magically fix you. If you can't save $100, a bigger paycheck may simply give your bad habits more fuel. So build the habit now. Save something. Invest intelligently after understanding what you're doing. Track where your money goes. Cut expenses that don't matter. Increase your income. And most importantly, create a gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is where your future starts growing. Because money sitting in your account isn't the entire goal. The goal is productive capital. Money that can potentially generate more value. A business. An investment. A skill. A digital product. A system. Something that can continue producing after the original effort. That's the transition. From working only for money to building things that work for you. But don't rush this. There's a dangerous version of financial motivation that tells you, take massive risks. Go all in. Bet everything. That's not wealth building. That's gambling with motivational music. Real financial strength requires understanding risk. You don't need to risk everything. You need to build something that survives mistakes. Think about what happens when you build multiple forms of strength. A valuable skill, a reliable income, emergency savings, investments you understand, a business you're building, a strong network. Now one failure doesn't destroy you. You have options, and options are financial power. And this is why you should stop chasing shortcuts. The internet is full of them. Get rich overnight. Easy money. Secret strategy. Guaranteed returns. One trick. One coin. One course. One opportunity. Be careful. The easiest thing to sell to someone desperate for money is hope without a plan. Don't buy fantasies. Build capability. And here's where patience becomes your superpower. Most people want immediate results. They work for 2 weeks. Nothing happens. They quit. They post for 1 month. Nobody notices. They quit. They start a business. No customers immediately. They quit. But wealth often looks boring before it looks impressive. At first, nobody cares. Then someone notices. Then a few people. Then customers. Then revenue. Then systems. Then momentum. The outside world sees the result. But you remember the boring beginning. The thousands of tiny actions nobody applauded. That's why you have to learn to work without applause. Because if you need validation to keep going, you're giving other people control over your future. Someone says your idea is stupid. You quit. Someone laughs. You quit. Someone says you won't succeed. You quit. Why? They don't have to live your life. They don't pay your bills. They don't carry your dreams. So stop asking everyone for permission. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You need a reason strong enough to continue when nobody does. Maybe you want freedom. Maybe you want to support your family. Maybe you want to escape a life you know you weren't meant to live. Maybe you simply want to discover what you're capable of. Whatever your reason is, make it stronger than your excuses. And remember, you don't have to become rich to become valuable. But becoming valuable dramatically increases your chances of becoming financially strong. So spend less time asking, what can I get? And more time asking, what can I create? Creators have leverage. Problem solvers have leverage. Skilled people have leverage. Builders have leverage. But leverage without competence is dangerous. So don't obsess over scale before you understand value. First become good. Then become fast. Then become consistent. Then find ways to multiply your output. That's how you build something durable. Not hype. Not luck. Skill, consistency, leverage. And while you're building, protect yourself from one of the biggest enemies of wealth. Impulse. The urge to buy something because you're bored. The urge to spend because you're stressed. The urge to upgrade because someone else upgraded. The urge to prove something. You don't have to respond to every urge. Sometimes financial maturity is simply saying, no, not yet. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to become a completely different person overnight. You just need to make better decisions more often. One less impulse purchase. One more hour learning. One more customer contacted. One more skill practiced. One more dollar invested intelligently. One more day of discipline. Small decisions become patterns. Patterns become identity. And identity eventually becomes destiny. Not because the universe magically rewards you. Because your identity determines your behavior. A person who sees himself as a builder builds. A person who sees himself as a learner learns. A person who sees himself as responsible takes action. So don't just set a financial goal. Create a financial identity. Say, I am someone who learns. I am someone who creates. I am someone who saves. I am someone who invests carefully. I am someone who finishes what I start. Not because saying it makes it true. Because you are going to prove it through your actions. Every day. Until there is no argument left. And then one day, something strange happens. You stop obsessing over becoming rich. Because you're too busy becoming capable. You stop chasing money. You start chasing mastery. You stop trying to look successful. You start building things that are successful. And slowly, quietly, your financial life starts changing. That's the real goal. Not a Lamborghini. Not a mansion. Not strangers being impressed. The real goal is waking up without financial fear controlling every decision. Knowing your family is protected. Knowing you can handle an emergency. Knowing you can walk away from something that destroys your peace. Knowing you have built options. That's what financial freedom actually feels like. 14977. So start now. Not because you're behind. Not because you need to prove something to strangers. Start because your future deserves a stronger version of you. Learn something valuable. Build something useful. Keep more than you spend. Take intelligent risks. Protect your attention. and keep showing up. Because the person who changes your financial life isn't coming. You are the person you've been waiting for. Now forget everything you've heard for a second. Forget the money. Forget the cars. Forget the millionaire lifestyle. I want you to think about one thing. What happens if you stay exactly where you are? Same income, same habits, same excuses, same year, then another, and another. That's the future you should be afraid of, because failure isn't always dramatic. Sometimes failure looks completely normal. You wake up, go to work, pay bills, come home, scroll for hours, sleep, repeat. Nobody calls you a failure. Nothing explodes. But 5 years disappear, and suddenly you realize, you didn't lose your life in one day. You lost it one ordinary day at a time. That's why you need urgency, not panic. Urgency. There's a difference. Panic says, I need money right now. Urgency says, my future matters enough that I'm starting today. Panic makes stupid decisions. Urgency creates disciplined action. You don't need desperation. You need direction, so make a decision. For the next year, you're going to treat your financial life like it matters. You're going to know where your money goes. You're going to improve your earning ability. You're going to learn something valuable. You're going to build something. You're going to experiment. You're going to make mistakes. And you're going to keep moving. You don't need permission. Nobody has to approve your ambition. You don't need your friends to understand. You don't need strangers to believe. And you definitely don't need everybody to agree with you. If you have a goal that matters to you, protect it. Work quietly. Learn quietly. Build quietly. Then let the results become loud. Because talking feels productive. Planning feels productive. Researching feels productive. Watching motivational videos feels productive. But none of those things create results by themselves. At some point, information has to become execution. Your notebook needs to become a product. Your idea needs to become an experiment. Your skill needs to become an offer. Your effort needs to become output. So stop protecting your ego. If you're afraid of looking stupid, you'll stay inexperienced. If you're afraid of rejection, you'll never sell. If you're afraid of failure, you'll never build. If you're afraid of criticism, you'll never create anything meaningful. You have to be willing to be bad at something long enough to become good at it. And don't confuse discomfort with danger. Your brain will often tell you, this is uncomfortable. Stop. But uncomfortable doesn't mean wrong. Learning is uncomfortable. Selling is uncomfortable. Saving when everyone else is spending is uncomfortable. Building alone is uncomfortable. Starting over is uncomfortable. Sometimes discomfort is simply the price of becoming stronger. Now let's talk about the million. Because you said you want $1 million. Good. But don't stare at the million. Break it down. What skill gets you to your first $1,000? What system gets you to $10,000? What business model gets you toward $100,000? What assets and discipline could eventually take you toward $1 million? Big goals become less frightening when you turn them into smaller problems. And here's what most people misunderstand about wealth. The goal isn't to constantly work more. The goal is to become better at producing valuable results. 1 hour of focused work can be worth more than 10 hours of distracted work. One great skill can outperform 10 average skills. One strong business model can outperform endless random effort. So don't just work harder. Learn to work better. That means asking better questions. Not, how do I work harder? But, how can I create more value? Not, how do I save every penny? But, how can I increase my earning power? Not, how can I look successful? But, how can I become financially strong? Better questions create better decisions. And don't underestimate your environment. If everyone around you spends everything they earn, spending feels normal. If everyone complains about money, complaining feels normal. If everyone says business is impossible, trying feels foolish. Your environment quietly teaches you what to believe is possible. So surround yourself with builders. People who learn. People who create. People who take responsibility. People who want more from themselves. You don't need friends who constantly tell you how impossible everything is. You need people who ask, what's the plan? What did you learn? What are you doing next? Did you finish it? That's accountability. And accountability can save you years. Because sometimes you don't need another idea. You need someone who refuses to let you make excuses. But ultimately, nobody can carry you. Someone can teach you. Someone can encourage you. Someone can give you advice. Someone can open a door, but you have to walk through it. That's your responsibility. And once you accept that, something powerful happens. You stop waiting to be rescued. You start looking for solutions. You become less interested in excuses, more interested in experiments, less interested in complaining, more interested in solving, less interested in looking successful, more interested in becoming capable. And slowly, your entire identity changes. You're no longer someone hoping life gets better. You're someone making it better, and that's when money starts becoming interesting. Because you realize money isn't just numbers. It's stored effort. It's stored value. It's a measurement of what the market is willing to exchange for what you create. So instead of chasing money emotionally, learn the game intellectually. Understand value. Understand incentives. Understand risk. Understand leverage. Understand human behavior. And once you understand the game, you stop being impressed by appearances. Someone drives an expensive car? You ask, what produces their income? Someone owns a company? You ask, what system produces the revenue? Someone has millions? You ask, what assets, skills, or businesses created it? You become curious instead of jealous. And curiosity is powerful because jealousy watches the result. Curiosity studies the mechanism. And the mechanism is where the opportunity lives. If someone is getting a result you want, study the process. Don't copy their lifestyle. Understand their system. Then build your own version. That's how you turn envy into education. And there will be days when you feel like nothing is happening. Remember this. Progress isn't always visible. A tree doesn't look much different every morning. But underground, roots are growing. Your skills work the same way. Your discipline works the same way. Your network works the same way. Keep building beneath the surface. Then eventually, the results become visible. The skill becomes income. The income becomes savings. The savings become capital. The capital becomes opportunity. The opportunity becomes leverage. And leverage creates scale. That's how small beginnings become large outcomes. Not overnight. Through a chain of intelligent decisions. So don't be discouraged by your starting point. A small bank account doesn't mean a small future. A small audience doesn't mean a small impact. A small business doesn't mean a small opportunity. Everything large starts small. The question isn't, how big am I today? The question is, am I growing? And if you're growing, you're winning. Even if nobody notices yet. Even if the numbers aren't impressive yet. Even if you're still learning. Because you're moving. And movement matters. A person walking toward their goal is in a completely different position from someone sitting still dreaming about it. So here's what I want you to do when this video ends. Don't just like it. Don't just comment. Don't just save it. Do something. Open your notes. Write down the one skill you need to develop. Write down the one financial problem you need to fix. Write down the one thing you've been avoiding. Then do the first step. Today, maybe it's sending a message to a potential client. Maybe it's creating your first product. Maybe it's learning a skill for 1 hour. Maybe it's opening a spreadsheet and finally understanding your finances. Maybe it's applying for a better opportunity. Maybe it's publishing something you've been afraid to publish. Whatever it is, move. Because 6 months from now, you'll either have 6 months of excuses or 6 months of evidence. Evidence that you learned. Evidence that you tried. Evidence that you earned. Evidence that you saved. Evidence that you became stronger. 6 months will pass anyway. The only question is, who will you be when they arrive? And 1 year from now, the difference could be enormous. Not because of one magical decision. Because of hundreds of small decisions. You chose learning instead of scrolling. Building instead of complaining. Saving instead of showing off. Creating instead of consuming. Action instead of excuses. Those decisions compound. And eventually, your life reflects them, so stop waiting for the perfect moment. There isn't one. The economy won't always be perfect. Your confidence won't always be high. Your bank account won't always be ready. Your circumstances won't always cooperate. Start with what you have. Use what you know. Learn what you don't know. And improve as you move. That's how real progress happens. You don't need to be the smartest person. You don't need to be the most talented. You don't need to have rich parents. You don't need a perfect background. You need to become extremely good at one thing, turning opportunities into action. Because opportunities mean nothing when you're too afraid to move. And knowledge means nothing when you never use it. And maybe you're starting late. Maybe you wasted years. Maybe you made terrible financial decisions. Maybe you've already failed. Fine. Learn from it. But don't turn regret into another excuse. Your past can teach you. It does not have to control you. You cannot change yesterday. But you can make today so productive that tomorrow has something new to work with. This is the moment. Not because some motivational speaker told you. Not because the algorithm showed you this video. Because you're finally tired of knowing you could be more. And refusing to become it. You know there's another level. You can feel it. But potential means nothing until you turn it into proof. Because eventually, you won't need motivation anymore. You'll have momentum. And momentum is different. Motivation says, let's go. Momentum says, we don't stop. You won't need to convince yourself every morning. Your habits will already know what to do. Your systems will already be running. Your identity will already be different. And one day, you will realize something. The money was never the most important transformation. You were. The money was simply evidence. Evidence that you learned. Evidence that you adapted. Evidence that you became disciplined. Evidence that you created value. Evidence that you stopped waiting for life to happen and started making things happen. So if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. You don't need to become rich today, but you need to start becoming the person who can become rich. One skill, one decision, one action, one day, then another, and another, until the person you are becomes stronger than the circumstances around you. Your future is not asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to participate, to show up, to learn, to try, to fail, to adjust, to keep moving. Because the biggest financial mistake isn't losing money. It's losing years while telling yourself you'll start later, and your story isn't finished. Maybe you're at zero. Maybe you're at $1,000. Maybe you're at $10,000. Maybe you're already doing well. It doesn't matter. There's another level. So stop asking, when will my life change? Ask, what am I going to change today? Then answer with action. Because your future doesn't need another promise. It needs proof. And the proof begins now.